Hi there, Brett here. Welcome back to Tabletop Sagas. And in one of my last videos, could have been the last video, it could have been the one before that, depending on what order I decide to release these in, as I am recording a few all at the same time. I did talk about a new bolt action project that I was working on, specifically looking at the 101st Airborne, or maybe more accurately, the US Paratroopers for World War II, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to go 82nd All-American for Italy or whether I was going to go 101st and do some more D-Day, maybe into Market Garden and things like that. And I did show off this purchase, which is the Kurahi starter box. I did also get a extra platoon of infantry as well. So I have spent about a week building this and getting it all put together, and with Movie Magic I can take that and just get it all done for you right now, like so. And here they all are. Everything is all built up and primed, ready to go. I have actually, maybe even depending on how I actually do this, you may not be able to see everything. I may not be able to quite fit everything in. As you can see, I definitely struggled having enough painting handles to get everything primed, to the point of my typical painting handles, I actually had to turn them sideways and double, or in a lot of cases triple up, in order to make enough room for priming. So I'm not going to go through and show you every single model here. This is going to be a lot more of a vlog style. I think I'm going to paint these up over a couple of episodes, mainly because, as I mentioned in my last video, I have a couple of days off work and I really want to break the back of these. So I'm going to be doing a lot of painting in a very short space of time. And I'm going to kind of come back to you and show you, as I do, little bits, little pieces here and there, and give you updates and really sort of show you how I would go about painting an entire starter box. But just quickly before we start, let's talk about what I've built these as. So I've built the infantry to be 2 squads plus plenty of options. So we've got a BAR light machine gun and a medium machine gun team for each of the squads. See if I can, yep, there he is, pick him out. So you can see here we've got the LMG guys here with the BAR light machine gun, and then I can never remember what the medium machine gun guy is there. And I do like that for this one they've got them on a separate base, so the loader here with all of the additional stuff that you need, all the additional bullets. So yep, I've got enough for 2 units of them, with the option to change in some SMGs, some LMGs, some MMGs, or not have any of them, maybe not do full strength, and then you might be able to squeeze in a 3rd unit, but that's what I've gone for. We've got our medium mortar, with the teams are on the big priming stick. So here we've got, guys for the medium machine gun teams, we've got guys for the mortars, we've got guys for the anti-tank gun, and yep, just pretty much everything all primed up on this stick. These are primarily the Warlord resin, which is an interesting material to work in. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. It seems to keep detail really well, but it is a really tough material and does seem to struggle with cleaning up mold lines and the sort. However, one thing I have remembered I don't like, particularly for larger items or vehicles, is metal. These were a bit of a pain in the backside, to say the very least. This is the light artillery, so the howitzer. It's in, it worked. I did have to re-drill some of these holes in the side which hadn't quite gone all the way through. That was a little annoying, and things didn't quite exactly lined up, and glue was just really struggling to get it all to stick. But the worst offender for that was this bloody thing, because and there we go. I'd only had him tacked on, and so really that's, literally as what I was about to say. Things didn't line up, so I've had to tack things on as best I'm able, but that does mean that things are nowhere near as sturdy. And as I was about to say, I did suspect that I'm going to have to probably take the turret off, pin it, and then re-glue that on, and well, there you go, because what's supposed to happen is there's a little peg that these two legs go on, and you fit them on, and then there's enough clearance with a little bit of the peg sticking up that's supposed to then go into a hole in there. Because of inaccuracies in the casting, however, that was not the case, and this is exactly what's happened. Little frustrating there. The joy of working with metal miniatures, particularly, I don't mind metal single casting infantry and things like that, but vehicles like this where you've got multi-part kits, it's just not a great solution. Metal is metal. We've had it for years. It's a necessity in some cases and in smaller batches, but from somebody like Warlord, these should be plastic. This tank gun, anti-tank gun even, it should be plastic. It should have been plastic years ago, and I'm sure there are people who will say, oh, well, we muddled along, we made it work. But this is a hobby. I want to enjoy it. I shouldn't have to make things work when we have a better material available. Just shouldn't. That's, is what it is. But yeah, that's where these are at. They're all primed up and ready to go. And so I think the next step is airbrushing. I've watched a couple of videos and, well, I didn't see anything for the colours that I've got. So I've tried as best as I'm able to kind of what I think is match the colours. So we're going to start with giving these guys middle stone. So this is a mostly brown but slight green tinge to it. And I think this is what we're going to start off with. And I'm going to get all these guys airbrushed and then probably use some, what should I use? I'm thinking either some camo olive green. Yep, I think it'll probably be camo olive green. That's what I'll use for the gun once I fix that, the howitzer, and And here we are. I am back with a little bit of an update. I've done about a day's worth of work on these. Works out as probably about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, something like that, to get them all base coated and then to get a couple of additional colours on there as well. I did decide to go a little bit further before coming back to you, and I've got to admit, I know this already, to be honest, but I don't think I'd almost forgotten a little bit of how difficult doing this many miniatures is at one time. So if you do try and do something like this, fair warning, this is not easy, because there's about 50 models or something like that here that, I'm not getting quick wins. Just painting the boots is taking an hour. It's not quick. So be aware of that if you do decide to try and do that. I knew this already going in, and I kind of a little bit forgot it, and I very much have remembered it once again. But either way, let's, I think, take a model and I'll show you in a little bit more detail what it is that I've been working on these. Okay then, so here is one of the NCO or Commander miniatures. They are in the Warlord resin, material I've never actually worked with before. And as you can see, I've done airbrushing to get that base colour. That was the middle stone. It's a mostly yellow, ochre sort of brown, but with just a slight tinge of green in it from examples that I've seen for the M42 uniform, that does seem to be reasonably close, or at least close enough for me to be happy with it. I've then used my typical mahogany brown, which just gives a nice rich looking leather, which I've done on the boots and any pistol holsters. And then I've used some Russian uniform to do the knee pads and the elbow pads, this reinforced material there. So 3 colours. Technically, that is tournament legal if you go by those sorts of things, although this is not something I would consider to be a finished model in any way, shape or form. And now I think that everything's got a little bit more colour on it. I can start to see those details, and like I said, this Warlord resin, I've never worked with this before. Actually, really nice. I'm really impressed with the amount of detail that's in these, and I am looking forward to painting them some more. Once we get all this picked out and get a wash on these, I think they're going to look even better. So what's the next stage then? Well, day 2 of doing these, I've got possibly day 2 and day 3, because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to work on these today. I think I want to get the helmets done with their initial base colour. That's also the same base colour that I'll use for like his light, and also as well for the guns and the mechanics, the vehicle type things. So that's why they're still not primed. So I'm going to do those. I then need to do the wood on the various guns, such as is needed. That's probably going to be me for today. Past that, I then do have any of the satchels and the water still to do, and then the blacking. Then we can get washed and all that. So there's still a lot to do before we're even really getting close to being finished on these miniatures. So let's do another little chunk, and well, another big chunk to be perfectly honest, and then I'll come back to you in a little minute. And here I am finally back, having done the next stage and the first green on these miniatures. So they are starting to come together now. I'm starting to be able to see a good bit of distinction between the different colours and really getting to grips with these. So let's dive right in, have a look at some close up and see where we're at. So I'm back here using this NCO as the example miniature. Here we can see the webbing on this one and the flashlight that he's got that I've put into that nice dark camo olive green. Do really like that for the helmets, and it is just different enough from the Russian uniform that I've used on the knee pads, so it does look really nice. This one has gone together really quite easily. It was definitely a lot better, although the green, there was still a lot of it and it still took a while. I don't know, it felt like this flowed a little bit easier. It perhaps was helped by the fact that I now have the vehicles that I could add in as well, so I could do a chunk of the infantry, get bored of them, come and do the anti-tank gun, do some more infantry, get bored of them, come and do the howitzer, get bored of that, go, you know, at least that tiny little bit of variation made a massive difference. Definitely taking this guy off his base as well, painting around that base to get into the underneath of this was just going to be impossible. I am going to need to think about what I'm going to do for when I'm going to be washing these, but we'll cross that bridge when I get to it, I think. I'm also not massively thrilled. You can see here, if I get this, you know, trying to keep that gun barrel actually straight. I'm not sure how well you can see that. Is a little bit of a pain. I can certainly see just a little bit of a kink in it, and it is driving me mad. Obviously the whole thing is off at an angle, but it's glued, it's pinned now. There's not much I can really do about that one. But the barrel itself being floppy, well, we can't have that. So something I did try and do, let's see if I can get right mini to be able to show this off. They do have leather straps on the helmets. Initially I tried to paint around on them, and some of the miniatures I have tried to paint around. In the end, I gave up. I'm just going to have to go and redo the leather. This project I'm wanting to take about 1 to 2 weeks. So repainting things I don't want to be doing, but hey ho, it is what it is. I've got to. So that's where we're at the minute. I think that this is a good step for the first vlog. There's been about 2 days of work. I haven't managed to do as much today as I wanted, but hopefully I'll come back in the near future with the next step of these and see how these are getting on. If you do want to see that, obviously do be sure to hit the subscribe button. So thank you very much for your time for now. I'll be back next time where we'll continue on with this project. And I've been Brett here at Tabletop Sagas. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.